Okay, let's see. I should be on now, yeah. Music is on too. I should be on now, yeah. Music is on too. Yeah, alright. Test successful. Let's see now. So. Now I'm still definitely gonna wait up for some people before I start any reactions here. Now I see there's already two people in the chat. What's going on? How's it going? Now, obviously, in my time zone, it's now almost 18 o'clock. So, most American people, I think they have school on Friday at this time, especially, yeah, because many people are students, or many people are in the age group of students that follow my channel. Imagine Friday at work, 12 o'clock or 10, 11, and you're turning on Megaraptor in work. Must be a great day. Let's see, camera back on. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I'm just gonna start from here. So, because it's already 10 minutes in, and some people also will wanna watch this on demand, so let's go then. So, there is the current 7DOS video. Ben's covering it, and with some ichthyosaur news. He's gonna like it, probably. It's probably the biggest ichthyosaur fan, or the biggest famous ichthyosaur fan, and one of the biggest ichthyosaur fans in general. But yeah, let's see. Some prehistory news, obviously fantastic to see. I'm just gonna watch the paleo segments though, mainly.
Hello and welcome to 7 Days of Science, your weekly source for the latest science news. In the headlines this week, a new species of marine reptile named the sword dragon has been discovered, revealing the brutality of life during the Jurassic. A new species of bone-headed dinosaur has been named the Thunderdome. The mystery of how the Moai walked to their current locations has been solved, and much more.
Yeah, you already know the Moai stature. The emoji is gonna be spammed.
And much more.
So he's gonna start off with the sword dragon ichthyosaur.
Before we get into the main stories, do be sure to watch the end of the video to watch us unbox this season's Curiosity Box. Thank you so much for supporting this episode.
Yeah, if you're interested, check that out, guys.
We've got some very exciting news from the world of paleontology this week, starting with our top story, the discovery of a new species of marine reptile, an ichthyosaur. This creature lived during the early Jurassic period, some 193 to 184 million years ago.
Shoutouts to Dean Lomax, by the way. He's apparently one of the descriptors here. And he's been doing some great work, the English paleontologist.
And is named Ziphodracon goldencapensis, meaning the sword-like dragon from Golden Cap. Ichthyosaurs, often called sea dragons, were a diverse group of reptiles adapted to aquatic life. Ziphodracon has a remarkably long and rather sword-like snout filled with small, slender teeth.
Yeah, this is why it's called the sword dragon. Looks like a swordfish.
For catching fish and cephalopods, and its skeleton is exceptionally well preserved. The fossil was first found in 2001 by a collector named Chris Moore on the Jurassic coast of southern England. It was excavated from the cliffs near Golden Cap, an iconic hill close to the towns of Charmouth and Lyme Regis and the highest point on the Jurassic coast, as well as being a favourite fossil hunting spot of mine. The specimen was later acquired by the Royal Ontario Museum in Canada, where it remains today. Ziphodracon is particularly significant because of the precise age of the rock layers in which it was found. It lived during the Pliensbachian stage of the Jurassic period, an important yet poorly understood time for ichthyosaur evolution, as fossils from this time are rare worldwide. Many ichthyosaurs are known from the stages before and after the Pliensbachian, but Ziphodracon helps to fill this gap in the fossil record. Interestingly, Ziphodracon is more closely related to Horpheopteryx, an ichthyosaur genus that lived in the late Pliensbachian and in the following stage, than it is to ichthyosaurs that lived before the Pliensbachian.
Yeah, in the Jurassic, especially towards the later stages of the Jurassic, plesiosaurs, such as the subgroup pliosaurs, obviously took over the apex predator niches in our oceans. However, the ichthyosaurs had the majority of apex predator niches before in the Triassic, especially with genuses such as Ichthyotitan and so on. And I think Temnodontosaurus is also known from the early Jurassic, some 200 million years ago, also in Europe alongside another apex predator, but from the land, Sociovenator. So a time where ichthyosaurs shrinked in size. So this ichthyosaur, not Hophipteryx, but Cyphodracon is also gonna be smaller, probably.
So together they've been classified as a new group, called Horpheopterygia. The Ziphodracon skeleton also preserves numerous interesting injuries that this animal sustained during its life, including deformed teeth, a fractured clavicle, and possible necrosis of the bone inflicted by swimming up to the surface too rapidly. The skull also preserves evidence of a bite inflicted by a large predator, which likely resulted in the death of this individual. So Ziphodracon is a wonderful new addition to the ichthyosaur evolutionary tree, and this poor, rather beaten up skeleton tells a fascinating story of the violent and sometimes painful lives of these amazing marine reptiles. Also in the paleontology news this week, a new dinosaur species has been named. Meet the Thunderdome, Brontotholus harmoni. It's a new kind of pachycephalosaur, the famous dome-headed dinosaurs, and its genus name literally means Thunderdome, which the
Yeah, it's, in my opinion, bald-headed, but yeah, let's go with dome-headed because that's what's scientifically accurate, I guess.
paper explains is both a reference to the 1985 film Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome and because the paleontologists nicknamed one of the localities where the fossils were found Beyond Thunderdome. Gotta love paleontologists and their names for new species. Anyway, it's an appropriate name for this animal considering that the 5 fossils it's known from are all fused frontoparietals, the bits of the skull that comprise the domes of pachycephalosaurs. 4 out of these 5 known specimens were found in Montana in the late Cretaceous-aged Two Medicine Formation, while the 5th one was unearthed in Alberta in the Oldman Formation, of similar age, making Brontotholus about 75.5 million years old. Very interestingly, 3 of the specimens from Montana had been first reported in the early 90s, but were not named at the time. The presence of an unnamed pachycephalosaur in this formation was used to propose the hypothesis that a direct evolutionary line could be drawn from the geologically older Stegosaurus to the younger Pachycephalosaurus, with the species now called Brontotholus being an intermediate missing link in this transition, a mode of evolution called anagenesis, in which one lineage evolves directly into another over time. This new study aimed to test this hypothesis by examining all 3 Pachycephalosaur species and came to the conclusion that Brontotholus does not neatly fit into this anagenetic scenario, as it was found to be distantly related to the other 2, overturning this older hypothesis. Brontotholus adds to the known diversity of these dinosaurs in North America and is actually now the 3rd largest pachycephalosaur from the continent, showing that the lineage achieved large body sizes even earlier than previously realized. What a brilliant new species. But that's not the only new dinosaur species named this week. We've
New early dinosaur species. Let's see. That's probably gonna be something more exciting than a Pachycephalosaur. I hope.
also got a
But still, it's always great to see a new dinosaur, of course.
new species of very early theropod, which has shed new light on how this iconic group of reptiles evolved. It's called Antiavis crurilongus, and it was
Yes, some Triassic theropods. The Triassic is such an obscure period, it needs to be talked about more. So, seeing some new animals described and seeing the Triassic on 7 DOS, fantastic.
covered in the Ishigualasto Formation of northwestern Argentina, rocks which date to the late Triassic, roughly 231 to 226 million years ago. This formation has been key to working out how early dinosaurs evolved, and Antiavis is particularly significant because it was part of the first dinosaur diversification, when these animals initially began to speciate into many new forms. This eventually led to their dominance in Triassic terrestrial ecosystems towards the end of the period. Antiavis is known from a partial skeleton including a good amount of the skull, and is an early diverging member of the theropods. Interestingly, it displays several features seen in more advanced neotheropods, suggesting that some traits previously thought unique to that group were actually more widespread. Antiavis and the other fossils reported in the paper demonstrate that dinosaur diversity and abundance in the Isógolesto Formation were even greater than previously thought, and that these early periods of dinosaur diversification were punctuated by distinct climatic changes, after which larger-bodied species appeared. A brilliant new discovery. Up next in the paleontology news, it turns out...
No. Antiavis. But it's not a neotheropod. That's good to understand the origins of these animals, of the most iconic group of animals, period, generally. So I would say, let's see what they've got here. Moai, SpaceX, and the Curiosity box. Okay, so just this one, and I think then I'm gonna go to the next video, because yeah, anything to do with outer space, I don't find it as interesting, and I think it's also out of the box for this channel, or not out of the box, but out of scope rather.
that hippos survived in Central Europe well into the last glacial period of the Ice Age. The idea of hippos living in Europe is hard to imagine, but hundreds of thousands of years ago, this was not an uncommon sight, as fossils of Hippopotamus amphibius have been discovered in these regions, the same species as the living hippos that exist in Africa today. Generally though, it was thought that hippos in Europe died out after the last interglacial period, ending...
Jesus Christ, those teeth. If they were still around in Europe in some swamps, oh, I don't know, bro. I'd have panic.
It was thought that hippos in Europe died out after the last interglacial period, ending about 115,000 years ago, as the world transitioned into a colder and harsher glacial period. Now though, researchers have dated various hippo remains found in southwestern Germany and discovered that actually they persisted here until just 31,000 years ago, deep into the last glacial period of the Ice Age. These late surviving European hippos seem to have belonged to a small isolated population that managed to hang on in this part of Central Europe for much longer, as this particular part of Germany acted as a refuge from the harsher conditions elsewhere. Alternatively, the hippos may represent one of several recolonizations of the area during more favourable times. Either way, it's a fascinating new discovery, and now you know that hippos used to live in Germany. Some archaeology news next.
Crazy. That's a neighboring country as well. Yeah, it's in northwestern Germany, so it's a quite far away from where I live, but still, it's a neighboring country. So, some interesting news, but I think I'm gonna go to the Vividan next. Yeah, just let's see on the comments if there's any Moai 7 days of mustache. Yeah. No, Ben's rocking this look though. Ben's rocking this look. Yeah. Ferris. Ben has a mustache. Yeah, he does.
Theropod dinosaurs were the...
So now the Vividan road to 200k, I hear. Blows already on 109k. Shoutouts. Obviously, all the channels we are reacting to today, maybe even Goji Center if someone wants, if someone suggests if we have time, we might. But all the channels and even potential channels are linked in the video or stream description in this case. So you can check out all the channels there. And I think need to go into this video. The biggest non-dinosaur land predators in Earth's history. Obviously, tons of pseudosuchians are gonna be on here. Oh, maybe not tons, but definitely some. But you could make such a video with tons of pseudosuchians if you were to go by exact order.
Theropod dinosaurs were the uncontested largest land predators in our planet's long history, with dozens of species reaching the size of modern elephants. The very biggest examples, like the Mega Carcharodontosaur Giganotosaurus or the Mega Tyrannosaur Tyrannosaurus rex, pushed past 8 to 9 metric tons as adults. Some exceptional Tyrannosaurus specimens may have surpassed the fabled 12 and 13 ton marks, a league above any non-dinosaur land predator. But we spend so much time focusing on the giant theropods that ruled the Mesozoic, we often forget how insane other prehistoric land predators were. This video will
Could be Barinasuchus or yeah, if I'm not sure. Definitely a large Sepecid or Sepecosuchian. I'm not sure if this is Barina or Dentaneosuchus. One of the two, definitely.
prehistoric land predators were. This video will go on a quest to find the biggest non-dinosaur land predator ever, starting with the familiar and working our way up through various bizarre and terrifying animal groups. Let me know in the comments what your prediction for the winner will be.
Well, you could say with the earlier size estimates of, for example, giant loricatons or loricadans, what was it called? Yeah, I can't think of the name, but a giant loricaton from. He lived alongside Supaisaurus actually, and hunted early sauropodomorphs. So earlier size estimates for this animal went to something like 3 metric tons, some crazy shit. Now it's, I think, closer to 2 metric tons or somewhere in between 1 and 2. So if it's not a loricaton, if it's not a pseudosuchian, if they count this as a predator, probably, then it will probably be a bear. Should. But he's gonna cover, of course, this is what he does so well, many groups, and find the biggest predators in all groups until he has a winner or showcase them, so we can also learn something about them.
For reference, let's take a quick look at the biggest land predators we still have walking around. The biggest modern cats, to start off, are the Siberian tigers. Males are much larger than females, at up to 300 kilograms compared to up to 160 kilos. That means a big male Siberian tiger will weigh as much as 2.54 Dwayne Johnsons, a standard American unit of measurement. We'll be using that a
Yeah, but the Rock is an absolute unit still. I need to make this. So now it's better, I think. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, 6'4", 118 kilograms. Yeah, let's see. So 1.0 is the Dwayne Johnson score. Yeah, because it's Dwayne Johnson, logically. But what is the Dwayne Johnson score for the Siberian tiger? Up to 2.5. Crazy shit. Now it's up to 300 kilograms. It's a big cat.
much as 2.54 Dwayne Johnsons, a standard American unit of measurement. We'll be using that a lot in this video, so get used to it. Wolves, the largest living canids, have exceptional record-sized individuals from Russia that weigh as much as 79 kilograms, or 0.66 Dwayne Johnsons. The biggest wild Komodo dragons weigh in at about 81 kilos, barely larger than record-sized wolves at 0.68 Dwayne.
Jesus Christ. These animals are slightly heavier than myself. That's absolute units, by the way. Grey wolves are around 79 kilograms. That's and Komodo dragon at 81 kilograms. Peak bulk at this point for me. I think tigers can surpass 400 kg. Wow. Yeah, but that must have been an exceptionally rare individual. So, Mercury, hello, by the way. How are you doing? We are reacting to nice paleo content today. Some stuff from Seven Dos, Benji Thomas, The Vividan, and Extinct Zoo, I think, is also in my to react playlist today.
Johnsons. But none of those animals even come close to polar bears. Males range from 300 to 800 kilograms depending on the subpopulation, and the world record largest was shot in 1960. It weighed a hair over 1,000 kilos for a Dwayne Johnson score of 8.49.
My God, normally you talk about like 500 kilos, so half a ton, half a metric ton. But yeah, I've heard that there are some exceptional individuals. There's some measurements for exceptionally large individuals like this one, and then you've got a monster. So if a current living animal or a species that's still living, the largest individual of that is already 1 ton, then you might talk about the bear getting the first place for this list. An extinct bear genus, I would say. I'm not sure which one though. Was it Arctodus, Arctotherium? I don't remember. So you're doing well, Mercury? Thanks, me too. I've had an exceptional week. So I'm absolutely, yeah, I would say happy. Yeah, probably. No joking around. Fantastic week up to this point. And now finally, obviously getting to stream on the English channel. Now, I couldn't do so for quite a while because my old PC, my old laptop, compared to this one, he wasn't capable of doing that hardware-wise, of course.
Any one of these extant animals are capable of shredding a healthy adult human to bits in close quarters combat, but they pale in comparison to their prehistoric counterparts. Let's start off with felids. There are multiple contenders for the biggest prehistoric cat of all time within the same broad mass range.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna think Smilodon should be populator. Smilodon populator would be my guess for biggest cat, but let's see. I'm actually not that into cats, I guess. So yeah, should still
The
be
Gonggong
Smilodon.
tiger is one many have heard of, with the scientific name Panthera tigris soloensis. It terrorized Pleistocene Indonesia and was previously estimated to weigh up to 400 kilograms. However, a 2016 study that included new body mass regressions from mammalian carnivores found it to be comparable to Siberian tigers at around
300 kilos, that's so much mass. So, May, I think Dinosuchus will be the largest non-dinosaur land predator. First of all, hello. Thanks for tuning in. Dinosuchus, because he could walk on land, is a good shout. But it's not a completely terrestrial animal still. So there, I think we have a problem there. I think we do. But could be a fantastic shot. You've probably seen the video already. Is
300 kilograms. That's still enormous, with the Dwayne Johnson score of 2.5, but isn't the biggest fossil felid by any stretch. Still, tigers are one of my favorite modern animals, so knowing that they were still bulky and beautiful in the Pleistocene pleases me greatly. Panthera spelaea, the Eurasian cave lion, was a huge cat that shrank throughout the course of the Pleistocene. A 2024 study found that the most recent examples of the species, Panthera spelaea spelaea, were about modern lion-sized. The earliest, Panthera spelaea fossilis, was absurdly larger. The biggest individuals had a shoulder height of 1.5 meters, nearly 5 feet, were almost 3 meters long, and weighed 400 to 500 kilograms.
Jesus Christ, it's definitely bigger than Smilodon. 500 kilos for a big cat. A massive cat in this case. But Deinosuchus got downsized. Yeah, true. Yeah, so what even is the current biggest crocodilian now? Is it Deinosuchus? Is it Purosaurus? Well, it's definitely not Sarcosuchus. It got massively downsized as well. But one of those two might be the biggest land predator or have a shout for that. But it's not the biggest land predator in my eyes because it's not fully terrestrial. But both animals, Deinosuchus and Purosaurus, are definitive mega predators with over 5 tons, metric tons in weight.
Or 3.38 to 4.23 Dwayne Johnsons. Their appearance in Eurasia was so impactful that they drove the previously dominant Homotherium and native jaguars into mesopredator roles, while the cave lions took over the apex niche. Injuries on cave bear bones may imply attacks by Panthera spelaea fossilis, focusing on young individuals. The lion's exceptionally powerful forelimbs are thought to have been useful weapons when battling bears in confined areas, somewhat countering the size difference. Panthera atrox, the American lion, is another giant feline.
So let's pause here. You say Purosaurus or Astagosuchus? I haven't heard. I don't know if I've ever heard that name, to be honest. Astagosuchus. Is it that big? Well, Purosaurus is crazy for the fact that it's like 5 million years old only, or 5 point something million years old. So that wasn't too long ago if you look at the grand scheme of how old Earth really is. Astagosuchus. I'm not gonna Google it now. Otherwise, this is gonna drift completely off topic.
The size difference. Panthera atrox, the American lion, is another giant felid. This heavily built cat lived everywhere between Canada and Mexico during the Pleistocene, only going extinct as recently as 12,800 years ago. Their diets varied according to geography, with the northern populations preferring high concentrations of pronghorn and sheep, while southern cats added horses, bison, and even mammoths. Estimates from the early 90s put the biggest specimens at around 523 kilograms, but more recent studies bring that down to a more modest 420 kilograms. That's still...
Holy shit. These sizes. Yeah, we're used to, I guess, megatheropods, but if you see this animal live, you see how much this actually is. I think I've got a better understanding of these sizes because, yeah, from The Rock is a good example, from these so-called fitness people. So I've got a better understanding of how big this actually is, I think, than some people. And holy shit, 400 kilograms. Boy, get 3 of these and you've got the size of a car, or the weight of a car.
Absolutely enormous, at 4 times the mass of a typical adult lion today, and equivalent to 3.55 Dwayne Johnsons. On to canids. Everyone loves wolves. Their gregariousness, intelligence, and beauty make them important figures in human cultures worldwide, but they are far from the biggest members of their clade when you account for prehistoric equivalents. Epicyon haydeni takes that title handily. It's part of the...
Some 200 kilograms, I think. Epicyon, one of the largest canids.
Borophaginae, a group within Candidae known for their robust, bone-crushing jaws, and in terms of diet may have resembled a huge Duraphagous hyena rather than a modern wolf. Adults of these species were over 100 to 120 kilograms typically, and a 2008 study found the largest specimen to weigh 170 kilograms based on a gigantic humerus. That's...
Jesus Christ, a dog with 170 kg. Yeah, I guess our ancestors and early Homo sapiens and other primates did their work by helping eradicating so much of the megafauna because we wouldn't stand a chance against most of these animals. And also because we have the unique ability of tool use. Well, not completely unique, but within primates, I guess.
Around a Dwayne John score of 0.84 to 1 for average adults and 1.44 for the biggest. Whether or not they lived in packs is unknown, but it's certainly a terrifying thought. Either way, Episci and Haydeni would have made Miocene and Pliocene North America a scary place to live if you were smaller than a rhinoceros. For ursids, our first contender for biggest member is Arctotherium angustidens. While the estimates
So Arctotherium is on here. Probably the size of the biggest polar bear, maybe bigger.
of a 2-ton bear are fanciful, since they're based on a humerus with diameter awkwardly increased by damage and bone regrowth, Arctotherium angustidens was still a massive animal. A 2009 study found a more reasonable range of 412 kilograms for small adults, with 1,200 kilograms as the absolute ceiling for the biggest specimens. Isotopic and morphometric studies show that this giant short-faced bear ate mostly meat, and likely would have both taken down prey and scavenged as needed. Its size would allow it to scare smaller predators off their own kills and take the carcass for itself. Arctodicimus is another absolutely gigantic bear. This North American omnivore would have eaten a large amount of vegetation supplemented by meat, which would come from browsing herbivores like ground sloths. It was a powerfully built animal by any reasonable standard. A 2010 study found that it weighed an average of 625 kilograms, and the biggest specimen was 957 kilograms.
Yeah, so the bear is not that bad of a shout, but at this point, a Pseudosuchian is a better shout than because 1.2 tons, which was Arctotherium, upper size estimates, are gonna be topped.
Those are Dwayne Johnson's scores of 5.29 and 8.11 respectively. Heck, even the very smallest weighed 317 kilograms, which is still bigger than the largest Siberian tigers. It doesn't quite reach the same heights as Arctotherium angustidens, however, and is well within the body mass range of modern polar and grizzly bears. There is some disputed evidence that Ursus spelaeus, the cave bear that fought cave lions as we discussed earlier, could have weighed as much as 1,000 kilos. However, in order to keep the video from dragging on too long, we should consider it an honorable mention and move forward. Hyenodonts were a diverse and successful group of carnivorous placental mammals that survived for most of the Cenozoic, popping up in Europe, Africa, Asia, and North America during the 50 million years of their tenure. The biggest among them was Megastotherium osteothlastes, a Miocene member of the group that reached half a metric ton. Its name translates to greatest bone crusher beast, and its skull lives up to the height at over half a meter long. It was one
This is some nightmare fuel. Wow. Half a ton for a hyenodont. You know, these guys, because they're, of course, called hyenodonts because they're similar to hyenas, bone-crushing jaws. I don't even want to know how many thousand newtons this thing can bite in, or bite with, I should say. At a hyenodont at 4 times the size of the rock. Wow.
of the biggest apex predators in Miocene Africa and likely combined active predation with opportunistic scavenging. A hyena look-alike with a Dwayne Johnson score of 4.23 is not an animal I'd want to tangle with. Alright, that's too much mammal talk at once. This channel thrives off of reptilian supremacy, so let's start that transition by moving to Gorgonopsians.
Yeah, true. Even though they're mammal lookalikes, should be, yeah, but he's getting closer to reptilians now. Should be therapsids, so I'm not even sure. Gorgonopsians. Yeah, but we're getting closer to the clade reptilia. That's what he wanted to say. So, Megistotherium is the biggest land predator mammal. Purely predator. Might be, actually, because can you really say that Ursus spelaeus, Arctotherium, or Arctodus is a pure predator? Probably not. Then you would have to say that Megistotherium is probably the biggest. Yeah, maybe some hell pigs? Like, what were they called? Deodon and colleagues. Maybe they can keep up with them as biggest pure land predator. A bear is definitely the biggest partial land predator, which is a mammal as well. This was the criteria for this one. New specimen weighs 1,300 kilograms. Oh my god, bro. Oh my god. His thing, if that size is not gonna be greatly or profoundly nerfed, then this thing is still about as big as a Ceratosaurus, if that's Megistotherium.
These saber-toothed Permian demon wolves were my childhood. Walking with monsters is incredible, by the way. Gorgonopsians were part of a group called Therapsids, descendants of Sphenacodonts, that included true mammals, as well as their closest relatives. Archetypal Therapsids, Gorgonopsians had columnar legs, were likely endothermic, and had powerful canine teeth. Innistransevia latifrons was the biggest of them all, at up to 3.7 meters long and about 350 kilograms, for 2.96 Dwayne Johnsons. Innistransevia as a genus is known from Russia and Africa, with Innistransevia latifrons hailing from Russia.
I wonder if he's also probably also gonna put Ankylosaurus, I think the biggest Permian predator, Ankylosaurus, so he's gonna be on this list probably.
2020 study concluded that large Gorgonopsians' biting strategy was similar to modern crocodilians, biting down fast and hard to inflict maximum damage. They also had stronger bite forces than similarly sized saber-toothed predators like Smilodon. The Dinocephalians were another group of non-mammalian synapsids, and
Could be Ankylosaurus now. I'm not sure but Dinocephalians should be the group, right?
Antisaurus magnificus was their undisputed ruler. This bear dragon reptilian super predator had a skull built like a sledgehammer, with thick bony protuberances all over its head that would have reinforced it during biting, as well as intraspecific headbutting combat. Its jaws would have scooped and torn huge chunks of flesh out of the big pariasaurs it likely preyed upon. Ankylosaurus appears to have been one of the largest land predators of the entire Permian, with the smaller, more complete adult specimens estimated at around 600 kilograms.
Jesus Christ. This is also around the size of Actiferium now. 12.7 Dwayne Johnsons. Yeah, this... My god. I don't even know what to describe this animal as. I can't name you a hybrid that would describe this animal well.
And the bigger fragmentary individuals scaling to nearly 1,500 kilograms, making it the biggest predator discussed so far on this list. Comparing it to polar bears feels right somehow. What about Sphenacodontids? This was a proposed sister group to Therapsidae and included famous taxa like Dimetrodon, which again is not a dinosaur. I'm sure most of you watching this video knew that, but I have to reiterate every now and again. These animals were synapsids with deep-rooted maxillary teeth, and many had tall neural spines, resulting in the classic sail-backed look. The biggest of this paraphyletic group may have been the hulking Tepanosaurus, a 5.5-meter predator that could have weighed as much as a metric ton. It's essentially a giant sailless Dimetrodon. That size estimate...
Holy shit. By the way, this paleo art makes him look way too nice for such a super predator. 1,000 plus kilograms potentially. For a Sphenacodont, a Dimetrodon colleague, if you want to call it, a family member. How the hell did this thing grow so big? Yeah, sometimes environmental pressure makes for evolutionary tops or evolutionary extremes in this case. This should probably be late Permian, I guess.
Is from 1955, unfortunately, and I don't believe the material has been thoroughly redescribed since then. If anyone has access to the material, send me an email and we'll talk. That's 8.47 Dwayne Johnsons we're talking about after all, which is a number I'd prefer to verify. Our next group is whatever the heck Smock Walweski is, because nobody...
Pseudosuchian, I think. I think I've seen a reconstruction of Smock that shows it as Pseudosuchian.
Nobody really knows. There's a reason that its description paper just called it a large predatory archosaur, and in terms of distinguishing characteristics, has characters seen both in early theropods and in Rhysuchians. Without molecular evidence to figure out its exact evolutionary relationships, we're left wondering if it's more closely related to dinosaurs or crocodiles, with the possibility of convergence explaining the characters that match one group or the other.
If Smog is a dinosaur, that would make for an apex predator of the Triassic then.
Whatever it was a big carnivore at 5 to 6 meters long. I haven't found any mass estimates for the animal, but non-peer-reviewed gut instinct tells me it's in the 400 to 600 kilogram range. Oh, and its genus name means dragon in Polish, as if you needed another reason to think it was cool. Lizards have had a huge range of size ranges and ecological niches over the long ages of the world. While the biggest lizards were the fully aquatic mosasaurs, some of which passed 13 meters and 10 tons, the biggest terrestrial lizard that we know of was Varanus priscus, informally referred to as Megalania. This enormous Australian monitor lizard went extinct as recently as 50,000 years ago. Call me crazy.
Should have been downsized, I think, around 500 kilograms now, but nowhere near a ton anymore.
But my personal headcanon that I like pretending to believe is that Varanus priscus is still alive in the outback somewhere. I don't believe in Bigfoot, I don't believe in Mothman, although I'm sure he believes in me, but you could potentially convince me that the Australian bush is still home to unreasonably large varanids. And unreasonably large Megalania was. Estimates for various specimens provide a range of 2.2 to 3.8 meters long, not including the tail, with corresponding masses of 320 to 1940 kilograms.
Jesus hell. Yeah, okay, it was size variety, size difference within its genus or in its species, because the Varanus species is still around, but within its species there's, or within modern Komodo dragons, I guess, and modern lizards, there's this great size difference. Otherwise, he wouldn't have a size range of great, or this great interspecific size difference. Otherwise, his size range wouldn't be 320 to almost 2 metric tons. So yeah, but that is unreasonably bulky.
That may seem like an absurd disparity, but studies on modern Komodo dragon growth plasticity indicate that such variance isn't out of the question. It's actually quite likely. Varanus priscus coexisted with other strange predators from down under, including the marsupial Thylacoleo and the terrestrial crocodile quincana, but dwarfed both of them. Oh, and it might have been venomous. Cheers.
Yeah, true. But if it's that big a predator, it might have not even needed to be venomous. Quincana was actually also a cool croc, but we'll probably have a mention in another video. For example, a video about prehistoric Australia. I think Extinct Zoo did one on that.
Marsupials weren't lizards, but boy howdy were they awesome. These quadrupedal archosaurs were bobble-headed murder freaks with jaws capable of taking off a human's arm. They were apex predators in the Triassic, and Erythrosuchus, the largest of the group, was from South Africa.
And it's been in Life on Our Planet. Great appearance there.
At up to 5 meters long and weighing hundreds of kilograms, it was the first apex predator pez to ever evolve, and was one of the biggest land carnivores of the Triassic. Although life on our planet didn't quite match the quality of Prehistoric Planet, the scene with the stalking Erythrosuchus was pretty dang satisfying. These bizarre archosauriforms needed more attention, and Morgan Freeman delivered. Notasuchians continue the trend of gigantic land-hunting crocodile relatives in the form of, Razinendrongobi sakalave.
Razinendrongobi. Fantastic crocodilomorph here from Jurassic Madagascar. Yeah, I've heard of this one. I think, is it already I'm not sure, a big Notasuchian, but it's crazy how most Pseudosuchians died out in the end Triassic extinction event, and they still managed to pull off to re-evolve into such massive apex predators back in the Jurassic. And Razinendrongobi is probably the biggest fully terrestrial croc from the Jurassic.
7 meters long and 800 to 1,000.
it must be, otherwise it wouldn't be on this list.
Kilos, Rasenendragobi was one of the biggest predators of Jurassic Madagascar, and of Madagascar in general. It's unfortunately quite fragmentary, known from pieces of the skull including jaw fragments, but fortunately more complete relatives give us a decent enough picture of its body plan. Take a saltwater crocodile, make its teeth broader, and have it hunt whatever it wants on land. Then you'll start to understand how scary Mesozoic Madagascar was. You all knew that Sebekids would be in this video. The family Sebecidae began in the Cretaceous under the dominance of the non-avian dinosaurs, with the humble South American ogre Suchus. When the KPG asteroid hit and wiped out the competition, Sebecids kept trucking along and remained the top predators on the continent for the next 60 million years.
Yeah, and there's this gimmick of, mammals were the undisputed animals within the food chain after the non-avian dinosaurs died out. Well, they had competition. There were terror-birds, there were a shit ton of pseudosuchians around. So you got Sebekids, or the bigger group Sebecosuchia, and Dentinosuchus and Berinosuchus are gonna be on here. Probably Berinosuchus, maybe also Dentinosuchus, two of the biggest members of this group.
This particular group of terrestrial crocodilomorphs reached their zenith in Berinosuchus, a giant from Peru and Argentina. It's another fragmentary croc, but huge regardless. Even the lower bound estimates put it at 1610 kilograms, and 3D modeling with more liberal musculature and soft tissue yields over 2300 kilograms.
So Berinosuchus is still the king, or is he keeping the biggest animal for towards the end of the video? Let's see.
That's scary. Berinosuchus ruled over a period of 30 million years from the Eocene to Miocene, and we're still not sure why it went extinct. Think about this for a moment. As recently as 12 million years ago, we had carnivorous reptiles the size of Allosaurus running around in South America. We were born in the wrong time period, folks. Hit rewind. Rhysuchians are the last group we'll cover in this video. The group is paraphyletic, meaning that it's an artificially created group that includes members of multiple different clades that look similar enough for humans to get confused, but we'll roll with it for the purposes of this video.
So is he then also gonna be talking about some other loricatons?
Postosuchus is the most famous. A North American pseudosuchian, Postosuchus lived in the late Triassic and represents what happens when crocodiles try to become theropods. Its long legs, short forearms, and powerful skull strongly resemble the carnivorous dinosaurs it lived alongside. It could have moved between a bipedal and quadrupedal pose, allowing it flexibility in adapting to surrounding terrain. The holotype of Postosuchus kirkpatricki was about 4 meters long and 300 kilograms, which would scale the larger 7-meter specimen to about 1,600 kilograms, or 13.62 Dwayne Johnsons. You know, the more I learn about the Triassic period, the more I love it. Crocodile World must have been an amazing place. Saurosuchus was another proud citizen of Crocodile World, hailing from the Ishigualasto Formation of Triassic Argentina. This one was more quadrupedal and was bigger on average than Postosuchus. A
Shoutouts to Prestosuchus as well, also another apex predator.
2009 paper used skull measurements to calculate a total length of 4.07 meters and mass of 385 kilograms for 2 subadults, which we can use to scale the big 6.4 meter specimen to 1496 kilograms. That's 12.68 Dwayne Johnsons. Despite its skull superficially resembling the bone-crushing Tyrannosaurus, Saurosuchus actually had a fairly weak bite force of just over 1,000 newtons, and likely would have focused on consuming soft tissue. Adding bones into its diet for mineral supplements would have been out of the question. Phasolosuchus tenax is regarded by many to be the largest Rhysuchian, and was the inspiration for the quadrupedal abomination featured in Star Wars Episode 65, where Kylo Ren loses the Force and has to shoot things.
Yeah, 65. Oh my god. Yeah, the paleo accuracy of this movie is outrageously bad.
Whether or not Phasolosuchus actually reaches the 8 to 10 meters it's commonly cited is up for debate, with most independent skeletal artists arriving at smaller figures in the 6 to 7 meter range. Somewhere in the realm of 1,000 to 1,600 kilograms seems appropriate, but I'm not aware of any specific mass estimates for it. If you do, let me know in the comments. On to Prestosuchus, a Brazilian Rhysuchian discovered nearly a century ago. It grew slowly and had muscle structure that indicated it was fairly primitive in terms of archosaurs, rather than being closely related to either the crocodile line or dinosaur line. It was another quadrupedal hunter, and based on the largest confidently referred specimen would have been 6.7 meters long and weighed 1450 kilograms for a
Jesus Christ. So Postosuchus, Saurosuchus, Prestosuchus, and Phasolosuchus are all in this conversation. My god, Loricatan or Loricata. What a group. And the Triassic, what a crazy time period.
Dwayne Johnson's score of 12.28. Based on that information alone, it actually seems like Postasuchus might be the dark horse winner out of the Rhysuchians, with Barinasuchus or Megalania taking the overall crown. However, there is an isolated Rhysuchian dorsal vertebra found with Prehistoric that may or may not belong to the genus. If it does, it would scale to an animal between 8.2 and 8.7 meters long with a mass of 2,700 to 3,200 kilos, making it far and away the biggest non-dinosaur land predator we've ever discovered. Whether it
Gafer is the name?
belonged to Prehistoric or a relative, it was certainly a gigantic animal, and comparable to many large theropods from later in the Mesozoic. I've also heard rumors about a gigantic Rhysuchian uncovered in Sweden, but haven't found any sources supporting those rumors. If you're watching this and have more info, please let me know. I'm all for big land crocs and would love to see one in the size range of megatheropods, although I'm aware it's currently wishful thinking. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out Vivid and Fossil Fits for fun merch. Subscribe for weekly.
So, wow. So crazy how good Postasuchus actually did in the size comparison. And that now Prehistoric might be the biggest. And actually that Megalania is so high up as well. But yeah, this wasn't the case like some 2, 3, 4 years ago when Fasolasuchus was like dominant for a short while. But I think we're gonna go to the next video then. What predatory dinosaurs would be most dangerous to humans? Well, it's Megaraptorans and yeah, let's see. Who else? Probably a Bellisaurus and something like that.
Nature's most terrifying predator is the one you can feel, but not see. While Hollywood tends to glorify the over-the-top, incredibly loud dinosaur attacks like Rexy roaring over a kill for no reason, or life on our planet's Tyrannosaurus bellowing to give away its position before lunging, nature values efficiency over cinematic choreography. Turns out scaring your prey in the opposite direction is counterproductive, unless it's part of an ambush, but we'll get into that. In this video, we'll cover which predatory dinosaurs would really be the most terrifying threats to an unarmed human and why, including a deep dive on how theropod dinosaurs could be much more intelligent and crafty than most people think. Let's get started. The most obvious pick would be dromaeosaurs, informally referred to as raptors. This group of small to medium predators belong to the Maniraptoriforms, a clade that includes modern birds, and boasts one of the most famous dinosaurs in history. The turkey-sized velociraptor lived in Cretaceous Mongolia, and lent its name to the much larger Jurassic Park raptors. The Jurassic Park series popularized the idea of human-sized, highly intelligent hunters, which to be fair sounds quite scary, but was there any merit to that? Real-life raptors not only reached the size of their fictional counterparts, but they exceeded them in some cases. Jurassic Park velociraptors are about 4 meters long and weigh around 150 kilograms, comparable to lions in mass. Not.
Yeah, put the fries in the bag, bro. Yeah, the Jurassic Park raptors are so wrong scientifically, but there are animals like the Besetki giant, Utahraptor, or Achillobator bigger than the Jurassic raptors who would absolutely demolish you, eviscerate you, and send you to hell. However, it's crazy how I didn't even think about that. Shame on me, I guess, because raptors, of course, raptor prey restraint model, being killed by that, like a pachycephalosaur by a big dromaeosaur, for example, not so nice, not so nice.
About 4 meters long and weigh around 150 kilograms, comparable to lions in mass. Not bad. The Mongolian Achillobator, however, was 4 to 5 meters long and weighed between 200 and 300 kilograms, up to double the Jurassic Park raptor's weight. Utahraptor was even bigger, with the largest individuals at close to 6 meters and over 400 kilograms. Now we're in grizzly bear territory. Their size, sharp teeth, and hooked hand claws were formidable enough, but add in the long sickle claw on each foot that would have been used to pin you down while you were being eaten alive, and you've got Mesozoic nightmare fuel. A human caught without serious...
Yeah, it's probably very similar to getting killed by a Megaraptoran.
Weaponry would be easy prey for a big dromaeosaur, and we're big enough to be an actually tempting meal. The horror isn't purely physical either. Recent research by Kai Kaspar's team indicates that reports of primate-level neuron density in non-avian dinosaurs may have been exaggerated, but they argue that dromaeosaurs would have been roughly comparable to many modern birds in their cognitive capacities. Other theropods in the new study, like Tyrannosaurs, to many modern birds,
Non-avian maniraptoriforms. Crazy. Yeah, this wasn't the best time to be alive as a mammal.
in their cognitive capacities. Other theropods in the new study, like tyrannosaurs, fell below birds and above crocodiles and lizards in terms of estimated neuron count. There's a lot to unpack here. At first, it sounds like theropods might not have been intelligent hunters, but not exactly. For the purposes of this video, we'll define intelligence as the ability to process and deliberately utilize information. How we determine intelligence in animals is controversial at best, with some favoring the encephalization quotient method that uses brain size relative to body size, while others look to neuron count as the better indicator. Both techniques put non-avian dinosaurs as broadly comparable to living non-avian sauropsids like crocodiles and lizards. Non-theropods are on the lower end, non-maniraptoriform theropods are higher, with T-Rex at nearly bird level, and non-avian maniraptoriforms are right in there with most birds. However, it turns out that neuron count is not as closely associated with higher cognition as expected. As pointed out by Darren Naish in his excellent tetrapod zoology blog post, giraffes have extremely high telencephalic neuron counts but don't demonstrate extraordinary intelligence. And mammals like cetaceans have much higher neuron counts than humans without correspondingly superior cognitive function. It seems like we may be back to lacking a universal predictor for intelligence, which again just shows us how little we know. With that in mind, let's look at what it would mean for theropods to be, quote-unquote, crocodile smart, remembering that dromaeosaurs are expected to score notably above their living Suchian relatives. A 2021 study found the following. The recent surge of reptilian cognition studies has uncovered that reptiles display a range of cognitive skills not inferior to those documented in birds and mammals. Reptiles exhibit fast and flexible learning, long-term memory, spontaneous problem-solving abilities, quantity discrimination, and even social learning. What does that mean in a practical sense? For one thing, cooperative hunting is very much on the table. Coordinated attacks have been observed in multiple crocodilian species thanks to Vladimir Denay's exhaustive research efforts. Johnston's crocodiles will herd groups of fish towards one another. American alligators do the same thing in groups of up to 60, with some driving the fish towards the others and letting them eat before swapping places.
Yeah, so from the size perspective, obviously crocodilians are the closest we have to compare to mid-sized theropods, because we don't have large land-dwelling dinosaurs on that size range running around anymore. We don't have that anymore. So compared to power level, crocs are probably the best thing you can look at. But also another thing is gonna be when they have a definitive indicator for intelligence. Let's see. Maybe the next 10-20 years are gonna bring us to a better scientific standpoint.
Feel free to pause to read these accounts in greater detail. Mugger crocodiles swim in coordinated circles around fish to force them into bunches and then take chunks out of them. Saltwater crocodiles have been documented to use threat displays to drive pigs into ambushes set by other crocodiles and then share the prey with the ambushers. Complex parental care is also clear. Crocodilians build and defend nests over periods of months, with some species exhibiting post-hatching defense and feeding as well. Mugger crocodiles and American alligators show tool use, again documented by Vladimir Denay, by placing certain sticks on their snouts during the mating season of local birds. Those birds try to build their nests with those sticks, and many fall for the trap, becoming tasty snacks. Green iguanas live in groups, groom one another, and form leadership-based hierarchies, with the leaders making sure that each member of the group makes it across dangerous terrain during long periods of travel. Male iguanas have been documented leaping out in front of predators to defend their females. Live in groups, try to build their nests
I need to play this again.
periods of months, with some species exhibiting post-hatching defense and feeding as well. Mugger crocodiles and American alligators show tool use, again documented by Vladimir Dene, by placing certain sticks on their snouts during the mating season of local birds. Those birds try to build their nests with those sticks, and many fall for the trap, becoming tasty snacks.
Jesus Christ. Smartass.
Green iguanas live in groups, groom one another, and form leadership-based hierarchies, with the leaders making sure that each member of the group makes it across dangerous terrain during long periods of travel. Male iguanas have been documented leaping out in front of predators to defend their female siblings. Monitor lizards are another group of incredibly intelligent reptiles. Rock monitors can count up to 6, and Nile monitors work in pairs to steal eggs. One acts as a decoy to lure away the adult crocodile, while the other chomps away. They can both end up getting the spoils as well. Tree monitors have demonstrated play behavior by tearing leaves to bits in captivity as a form of stimulation. Kraken, a Komodo dragon at the Smithsonian Zoo, is well known for playfully tugging at objects in the pockets of keepers, engaging in tug-of-war, and showing high degrees of non-predatory curiosity. I've linked another tetrapod zoology post going into these examples in depth. Crocodile monitors display interspecies bonding and interaction with humans to the point where human interaction may be preferred over food, and the same is true for emerald tree skinks. Check out Tom Crutchfield and Clint's Reptiles for more details. Play behavior has also been seen in turtles and crocodiles, in the form of object manipulation, playing with dripping water, wrestling, piggyback rides, and even surfing. A 2019 literature review even indicated that reptiles are capable of the following emotions: anxiety, stress, distress, excitement, fear, frustration, pain, and pleasure. So much for the myth of the dull, sluggish lizard. How does that relate to dromaeosaurs? Well, even if we ignored bird intelligence entirely, we'd at least expect dromaeosaurs to display prey herding, the ability to set ambushes, investigate new objects, play with their food, and even lay traps by predicting the behavior of their victims. On a more wholesome note, perhaps you'd be able to form a lifelong bond with a theropod if you raised one from infancy, assuming it didn't kill you by accident, of course. The potential for dinosaur horror goes even higher when we look at behaviors in modern birds. This comes with the disclaimer that the most derived birds are more neurologically advanced than any dromaeosaur, but as we've seen, non-avian reptile intelligence is criminally understudied and underrated. I wouldn't count out complexity if I were you. Shrikes are a group of passerine birds from North America, Eurasia, and Africa, known for being both adorable and absolutely vicious little serial killers of birds. Males impale lizards and other birds on nearby spikes to use as food storage and to impress females. It's a very specific behavior and doesn't scale up very well, but similarly gruesome activities may have occurred in the past. Another speculative behavior.
I've seen like a Shrike short on, what was it? He's a YouTuber that's currently doing really well. More parts. So parts is basically an Australian, or I think Tasmanian, and currently doing shorts on different animals around the world, currently living animals. One of the best short creators right now, and I've seen what the Shrike's doing. It's crazy shit.
Behavior would be vocal mimicry, designed to lead to prey capture, such as what we see behavior and doesn't scale up very well, but similarly gruesome activities may have occurred in the past. Another speculative behavior would be vocal mimicry, designed to lead to prey capture, such as what we see in the modern drongo. These birds mimic alarm calls to scare rivals away from food, and then swoop in to feast after their mark flees the scene. Vocal activity on that level in non-avian theropods is unsupported by current knowledge. Alan. But the discovery of a larynx in the Thyreophorine Pinacosaurus indicates that complex vocal communication may be a basal trait in all dinosaurs. In terms of tool creation, as we see in birds solving food-based puzzles, non-avian theropods likely wouldn't have had the selective pressure motivating them to use external objects when their teeth, claws, and overpowering physical prowess were enough to do the job. But
If two Tyrannosaurs actually pull this off, imagine seeing this in the flesh as well.
hey, it's possible. Another group of predatory theropods that would be a nightmare for humans is the Abelosauridae, a short-armed, long-legged clade affectionately referred to as murder sausages. Famous members like Achosaurus and Carnotaurus showed that they had long, rotund bodies with tiny nubs of arms. Also, shameless plug here, Prehistoric will be doing the cover art for my Paleo Fantasy series Extinction. Keep an eye out for an upcoming cover reveal. While unpublished giant abelisaurs exist, like the long-teased Titanovenator of Kenya that supposedly surpasses 6 tons, most were in the half-ton to 2-ton territory. The largest described genus, Pycnonemosaurus, is estimated around 9 meters long and between 3.2 and 3.6 tons as a subadult. Abelisaurs had tall, short skulls with fast and weak bites, ideal for taking down small prey, which relatively would include adult humans. Their speed and size put them in the perfect position to bite your head off, and it may have been difficult to hear them coming. A 2018 study found that large carnivorous theropods had a unique foot structure that diffused the impact of their steps. The study stated that the seismic wave motion camouflage would be useful to hide actual approach velocity, and could even produce the perception that the predator is not approaching. Speaking of abelisaur jump scares, has anyone ever played the DVD menu game from Disney's Dinosaur? Absolutely terrifying. The next group of terrifying theropods from a human predation perspective is the Alioramans. This subset of tyrannosaurs lived in eastern North America and Central Asia in the late Cretaceous, and appeared
Just to reiterate on Abelisaurus, underrated clade, Ceratosaurians in general, fantastic animals, weirdly looking, weirdly wonderful animals. And other than the Alioramines, I want to see the Megaraptorans. I need to see them. We need to see them.
very different from the public image of tyrannosaurs. Rather than the bulky, robust, mega tank build favored by tyrannosaurians like T-Rex, Tarbosaurus, and Zhusheng tyrannus, Alioramans were slender, long-snouted, and freakishly fast. The larger of the two genera, Chenjosaurus, was about 6 meters long and weighed over 700 kilograms as a subadult. Based on
And ran around something like 60 kilometers per hour or 65.
similarly proportioned relative Appalachiosaurus, Chenjosaurus would have had a top speed of at least 55 kilometers an hour or 34 miles per hour. That's 25% faster than the absolute top speed ever recorded for a human, and it would have been able to sustain it for a much longer period. We don't have direct evidence for gregariousness in this taxon, but considering tyrannosaurs are considered to be in the more intelligent side of non-avian dinosaurs, complex hunting behaviors like ambushes and coordinated decoys are probable. Their skulls were about a meter long, the perfect size for ripping off human limbs or crushing your skull. And as a tyrannosaur, Chenjosaurus would have had incredible senses. Forget running from this thing, you wouldn't even be able to hide from it. Alioramus itself would be comparably deadly, although slightly smaller.
Yeah, I think the Vividan had a video on how to survive if you're getting sent back and you still would only have like 10% chance of surviving. He predicted 30 days, even if you had a certain skill set to survive in the Jurassic, I think Morrison formation it was. And yeah, you just need to hide in trees, honestly, because you've got the medium-sized tyrannosaurs, these speed monsters, and another speed monster group like the Abelisaurs, then you got the Dromaeosaurs and the Megaraptorans probably coming up. So, and then you got a whole bunch of giant, probably territorial herbivores willing to defend their habitat, and you're absolutely getting cooked by this dinosaur group, that dinosaur group, any dinosaur group, or any other animal as well. So yeah, it's not as dangerous as it used to be if we're looking at the megafauna.
It's only half a ton, which would be little comfort to anyone trying to survive an attack from the creature. Yes, there are theropods that on an absolute scale may be capable of dealing out more damage. Nobody's going to argue that any member of these groups has the raw firepower of a megatheropod, but they would be far more likely to attack humans. I'm not saying that megatheropods would turn up their nose at a tasty primate-flavored snack. Predators today eat small prey items all the time. Why turn down easy energy after all? But we wouldn't be in their optimal calorie versus effort range. For our purposes, Dromaeosaurs, Abelisaurs, and Alioramans would be the most dangerous predatory dinosaurs as adults. Much of the same logic applies to juveniles of larger species like Allosaurus or Tyrannosaurus. We shouldn't forget terror birds, though. Their largest representatives were comparable to the biggest dromaeosaurs in overall mass, but even taller at the head. Powerful necks supported beaks capable of crushing large mammalian prey, and their roided-out ostrich legs allowed for speeds in excess of 48 kilometers an hour or 30 miles an hour. Thick claws would have pinned down victims that somehow survived the sledgehammer beak blow. A human's best chance to escape an angry forest racket would be to run in zigzags, as a 2016 study indicated that terror birds had poor agility and were built to run extremely quickly in straight lines. If serial killer Big Bird ever tried to live out a nightmare on Sesame Street, now you know how to maybe get out alive. One more group deserves a place on the nightmare podium: Megaraptorans. Slim, medium-sized theropods, Megaraptors had long jaws and long, powerful arms with claws that could disembowel a human as easily as filleting a fish. Mape Macrothorax was the biggest of the group at about 3 metric tons. No big deal, just 3 times the size of the world record polar bear with claws as long as a human forearm. As subscriber Thaxosaurian put it, Megaraptors were big enough to go inside houses, paired with big arms that are armed with large claws, which could rip and tear a human apart like Doomslayer with Freddy Krueger claws.
Good comment right there, W.
I had actually forgotten about Megaraptorans before I made that community post, so thank you for reminding me about this awesome group of animals. What do you think the most dangerous theropods would be to humans? Any other awesome groups that I forgot or that you think got shafted? Let me know in the comments. And also let me know what non-theropods you think would be too risky to approach. I really enjoyed making this video and I'd love to make more, blending awesome bro topics backed up by real science. So I'm open to suggestions of what you'd like to see. I'm Devividen, and I'll see you next time.
So that's it. That's gonna be it for today, guys. I think we might stream tomorrow. I'm definitely gonna do another community post right now if you guys want to see a stream tomorrow. And then we'll see, like, probably late afternoon again or evening. So obviously for our American friends to also be awake, I guess. And I wish you a pleasant evening, guys. See you soon. Megarapt out.